afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're tuning in from. We do appreciate you sharing your time with us and lending your ears to our ridiculous voice boxes. I, of course, am Bentley Danger, and it is always fire Clayton White until he gets fired. I've got Gary in the house with me and Ryan in the house with me. How we doing, gentlemen? What's up, boys?
Doing good, man.
Nice. Gary, thank you. Ryan, how are you? I meant to say Ryan, but I said Gary for some reason.
It's okay. We're basically all symbiotic at this point. I don't agree or disagree with any take you have because it is also my take.
Interesting.
I'm doing well. I missed you today at work, so this is makes me feel better to see you today, Gary. I did talk to him at work, so I don't feel as sad, but I do enjoy seeing.
You didn't get to see my ugly face, but
yeah, it's better now.
Well, seeing as how you just said that we're all symbiotic, it's almost as if you did see me today at work.
I didn't see you. I felt you.
Oh, you felt the vibes. The vibes are just there, dude. Yeah. All right, well, boys, we have come to the last off-season pod. The last Backyard Buckets without actual NBA regular season games being played. And we are ecstatic, are we not?
Yes, sir.
Tonight's episode is going to be a fun one, I would imagine. I gave the boys earlier this week all of the Vegas over-under lines. Now we're not gonna talk about the odds because it is extremely gambling heavy. So we're just gonna go right into the wins and losses of it, right? So I went to Vegas, sort of. And I spoke to the bookies. I said, "Give me your over/unders on the projected win totals for all 30 teams in the NBA." And they obliged, of course, and sent me back a nice sticky note. And I photocopied that with my photocopier, and then I projected that onto the wall screen with my slide projector, and then I hand copied it all down onto my iPad, and then I transferred that over to my PC. And here we are with all of the lines in front of us on our monitors.
It's a lot of work.
It was a lot. Well, I'm dedicated to my craft. I don't want to mess anything up,
That's true.
So we have all the lines.
We appreciate the effort, though.
Well, someone's got to work around here, right? You guys are spending all the time at the office, and I'm just over here grinding on the pod. Like,
I don't appreciate inefficiency. So
what are you gonna do, right? So, yes, the third eye is awakened. So after relaying the over-unders to the boys, I asked them to go through and kind of pick a few that they felt strongly one way or the other about. So how this is going to work, I'm not going to read all 30 over-unders. I give you the highlights and I give you the lowlights, and then we'll get into the boys' picks, how we feel about each one, and then I have some questions for them at the end about the most interesting, or what I think is the most interesting over-under lines going into the year this year. Whether we hit on those in their specific lists or not, I don't know. I haven't seen their lists. This is all off the fly because I wanted it to be, or we all decided, rather, not me, myself. We all decided that it would be better to talk about our picks on the pod so that everyone can hear them, right? That being said, let me give you some highlights and lowlights for the win totals. We have 4 teams with projected win totals of over 50 games. Now, Cleveland comes in at 50.5, so I didn't count them in the over category. But you have Boston at 54.5, Milwaukee at 53.5, Denver at 52.5, and Phoenix at 52.5. Those are your 4 highest win totals going into the year next year. Those are all teams I kind of assume that we all think they're going to win a bunch of games and make playoff runs. So it makes sense that they're very high, right?
Yeah. I actually, not to spoil too much, I know we're going to highlight some specific teams, but I'm over on all 4 of those.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It's a very top-heavy league this year, and that's why I feel that way. I think the projections by Vegas reflect that, right? We've got a handful of teams that are going to really be kind of head and shoulders above both of their conferences, right? And then the East is going to be really heavy at the top, but that's how I feel about it. I think Vegas is kind of telling us, hey, this is going to be a pretty heavy at the top league, and then it's going to be kind of whoever can pick up the scraps from probably 3 through 8, right? Or 3 through 10 now that we got to play in. So
nice. I do have one of these teams on my list of over-unders to talk about. So I won't spoil that.
Yeah, I won't spoil it. Me too.
Yeah. So those are your top fours, right? Ryan, do you have any of those teams on your list? I guess we can spoil the list a little bit, but do you have any of those 4 teams on your specific list?
Well, I only have 2 on my list because reading's hard.
That's fine. Is it any one of those 4 teams?
Yes, I do have one of those 4 teams.
All right. All right.
It's amazing that with my 2, I found a way to get in there.
Yes, it is.
You had a 2 in 30 chance to get in there.
Yep. 1 in 15 if you do the math. So
That was too hard for me.
well, that's understandable.
That's why you're here.
All right, so we've gone over the top 4 teams. I'm just gonna touch on the bottom 4 as well, right? So we have 4 teams at the bottom of the league that are projected to win less than 30 games. One of them, unfortunately, is Gary's favorite team and mine as well, the Washington Wizards. They have the lowest projected win total by 4 games in the NBA. Their line is set at 23.5. The next closest is Portland at 27.5. And you have Detroit coming in at 27.5 as well. And then San Antonio rounding out the bottom 4 at 28.5. Those are your less than 30 win teams projected. All right. So we've gotten that out of the way. Everybody else kind of falls in the middle, right? The other 22 teams. Gary, let's go to you first, brother. Give me one team you'd like to speak about and their over-under and which way you're leaning.
Yeah, I'm going to hit a team we talked about a ton this offseason, and that's the Miami Heat. We talked about them, over the last couple of weeks because of the trades with Dame and the fallout from the trade with Dame, the subsequent trade of Drew Holiday to Boston, etc. I think this line is way too heavy for them. I don't think they even get to 500 this year. I don't like their offseason. We've kind of shit on them quite a bit on this show in terms of the offseason they had. The draft they made was with the intention of getting Dame Lillard, and they didn't. So now kind of they're stuck with like a low ceiling, but also a high floor guy in Jaime Jaquez. But they also kind of gutted a good portion of contributions to last year's championship run in letting a few guys out the door. And I don't see this team as better than last year. I don't know that I even see them as good as last year. So for me, I'm heavy on under on Miami. I think they're going to struggle to really compete. They don't have a lot of depth. I'm sure they're going to find 4 undrafted guys and make me eat my words by the time we get to the All-Star break. But right now it looks like on this roster, I just don't see 45 wins from this team. I don't see 41 wins from this team. I'll be honest. I think they're going to be a 38 to 40 win team, probably a play-in team again, right? From the East, but I just don't. I don't look at this roster and say this is a 45 win team.
That's fair. I can understand where you're coming from given all the points you laid out there. Ryan, how do you feel about the Miami Heat given the 44.5 point or win total line?
As a noted Miami Heat supporter, I'm glad you asked. If they have one fan, it's me.
Dr. Naismith is a big fan of Riles.
Yes.
Yeah. Was Miami part of the United States when basketball was invented? I'm not sure.
It might not be still part of the United States. Like
it's its own country.
Yeah.
So yeah, my logic is that I don't think the Miami Heat are that bad, but I don't think they're that good. So like 44 seems, around where I would put them. But what I will say is I like a lot of the lower teams in the East below them that I think could easily pass them. So I think I have to take them just under that. I think they're probably a 500 team. So it's not like a terrible line. I don't think it's like this arbitrage or something. But I like the Pacers, the Nets, the Magic. Like those teams could move up a little bit. I think probably if I was going to pick, it would be Pacers, Magic, Nets in that order, and then the Heat could finish above all 3 of those teams, or could finish below all 3 in any order. I think they're in that tier, and so I think there's a solid chance that they are an under on this. And I would not touch the over. I don't think it's a terrible line, but I wouldn't touch the over.
I agree. They won 44 games last year, and I don't feel that they're demonstratively better this year than they were last year. Lowry is another year older. I will say there's an interesting dynamic within that team with Tyler Hero coming back, sort of having a chip on his shoulder, wanting to prove to the world that he is this dynamic player that was worthy of a Dame trade while wanting to stay in Miami. Obviously, that's what he wanted. But he kind of, I would imagine, felt disrespected by Portland saying, you're not worth a Dame trade, right?
He took some strays this offseason.
Absolutely. But Miami was like, fuck it, we're going to run it back, right? We didn't get Dame. We're just going to go with our draft picks. And like Gary said, they'll probably find some undrafted guys to make us all look foolish. But if I were going to bet this line, I would as well play the under. I think that there are teams at the bottom of the East that were there last year that are better this season than they were last year. So that they'll snake some wins, I would imagine. All right, Ryan, do you have a team you would like to speak about, please, sir?
Well, before I only picked two, so I want to comment on one team. I think it's criminal that the Wizards are 4 games below everybody else. They're not 4 games worse than everybody else. I know you kind of mentioned it, but I didn't say anything. I just think that's crazy to me. Jordan Poole's a top 2 guy in Washington.
Top 2 guy named Jordan Poole.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. Well, maybe. I know a lot of nice Jordan Pooles. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Ryan, do you think that Vegas is projecting that Washington's going to be sellers at the deadline and they're trying to just bottom out? Because that's what I feel. I feel like that number probably tells me that Vegas thinks Poole's gone at the deadline, Kuzma may be gone at the deadline, and they're just going to go full scale, run to the bottom, get as young as possible, and try to find a superstar in that bunch.
Yeah. I mean, I have to imagine that's what that is, right? Like that's okay. Just. I mean, I like Portland. We talked about Portland, and I think Detroit could have that line and it be like relatively reasonable. I think I would flip those two almost and feel better about it. I just wanted to throw that out there. I just think Washington is. I do think it's them assuming the tank is going to happen. That doesn't necessarily mean Poole and Kuzma, but it could be, Avdia, like fringe guys who contribute. They still got guys I like Rui Hachimura.
Yeah, me with that one. Oh.
Playoff contributor Rui Hachimura.
I do want to say I've been a big Rui fan for a while. I liked the Lakers trade for him. I'm not saying that.
I got a bunch of his rookie cards because I liked him at Gonzaga. I was stoked when the Wizards drafted him.
Yeah, he's gigantic, which helps. I'll talk about a team I already brought up. It's the Pacers. I think the East, there's a lot of middling teams in the East, and the team that I think's arrow is pointing furthest up is probably the Pacers. I think they're the best assembled team of the teams in the middle of the projected lines. I think there's an argument that they're better than the Hawks. I think they're better than the Bulls. They're better than the Nets. I think the Magic also have an ascending team, as I think most people think. I don't think they're yet constructed to really blow their over/under out of the water. I think the Pacers are a 42 win team probably, if not better. I would almost flip flop Miami's in them and feel better about both lines probably. I think they're criminally low. I think they're well assembled. I think Halliburton is an elite passer. I think they have rim runners with him. They protect the rim with Miles Turner. They can shoot. They got off-ball guys. Just really well built. They complement each other well. They're coached well. There's maybe some defensive issues, but outside of Miles Turner, but I like the team a lot, and I think they're an over 500 team at least. So about 3 games off on that 38.5 projection. Yeah,
they won 35 games last year, and I believe Halliburton played 46 games or something like that. He didn't play the full season. But I like the points you made there. I do agree they're probably the best constructed team there, sort of in the middle. Gary, how do we feel about Indiana?
I agree. I couldn't agree more with Ryan. I actually wrote down 41 or 42 wins is where I kind of think Indiana's going to fall. So I'm I'm with Ryan on that. You bump up maybe 6 or 7 wins over last year. I think 3, and I think they could win as many as 44, 45 potentially. I love the roster construction. I love the move to get Bruce Brown. I think he's going to be a guy that can fill a lot of different functions for that team, on top of having that championship medal, that playoff experience for a team that doesn't really have a lot of that on the roster. I think that's going to go a long way as well. Ryan made a lot of really good points. They're going to be able to score. They're going to be able to protect the rim. They've got some shooting, maybe not the most shooting, of these middling teams, but they've got some shooting. Like I said, I love the Bruce Brown move. I'm over on this one, and I'm right around 41, 42. It wouldn't surprise me if they won as many as 44 or 45.
Yeah, I as well would take the over. I think they're closer to a 500 team than I think they are to like a 45, 46 win team.
Sure.
Just because they are still super young in their superstar kind of realm, right? Like Ty Halliburton, yeah, he got that huge extension. He's a phenomenal player, right? Mathurin, still very young. Jarris Walker, they're going to work into the lineup there, right? My fear with them is that they finally pull the trigger on the Miles Turner move or the Buddy Hield trade, right? Like that, and that obviously, if they do that, they become sellers at the trade deadline, and they're not trying to win this year. I don't imagine that would be the case, but if I were to bet this line, that would be my fear. Is that the beginning? They don't get off to a hot start, right? They kind of stumble right out of the gates, and they think, oh well, let's punt the year, let's draft another guy to put beside, let's get a big man, right, to put beside Halliburton and Mathurin, and kind of build next year's team, and reset our timeline a little bit with moving the Hield and the Miles Turner pieces. But I like everything that you guys said, and I definitely would be on the over as well with that team.
Yeah, I think you start sweating this line if they're 3 or 4 games under 500 in the first month of the season. You might start thinking that they're just not going to buy into this actually working, and maybe you do end up in a seller situation like you said.
Yep.
Slow start could be trouble for this line.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Gary, give me another one that you got highlighted over there.
I'm going to stick with a theme. By the end of this, you'll understand the theme that I've got going. I'm going with the Blazers, though, the team that traded away Dame that Miami didn't get. This feels to me like a lot like the Jazz last year. The Jazz had a line that was 24.5 last year after the Gobert trade, after moving Mitchell and all that. But I think what happened is a lot of people, and maybe even Vegas, I don't often think that Vegas misses on things like this, but Utah beat their line by 12 wins, right? They finished with 37 wins on the season. They beat their line by the All-Star break. And I think what got lost on people is that they got some good pieces back, and they did well in the draft. They had some pieces there, and they're a well-coached team. They did a really good job loading up after Quinn Snyder left. I think they're pretty well run there. It's a stable organization, good ownership. I feel pretty much the same way about Portland this year, in the fact that I think they did well in the Dame trade. I think they did well overall in the offseason. I think they drafted well. Obviously, when you get Scoot, you won the lottery, right? In terms of you won the lottery because you knew you didn't get Vic, right? It's a matter of getting into that top 3 that we talked about with Vic and Miller and Scoot. And they got Scoot. And I like Scoot. I've professed it on this show quite a bit that I really like him. But what they did in terms of managing this team with moving a superstar, but not completely just bottoming this roster out, I think this number is far too low. I think this is probably, what did I write down? I think 35. Yeah, I've got 35 wins for this team this year, 35 to 37-ish in that range. They're not a playoff team, in my opinion, but this is a much better team than I think this number at 27.5 says. And it feels very much, like I said, like the Jazz last year. And I actually had like a side bet with somebody who was like, nah, the Jazz are really going to suck. And I won it before the All-Star break. So appreciate you, Utah. But yeah, this just feels like that number of like, oh, they were clearly trying to just move on from a superstar. They're not going to win a lot of games this year, but I don't believe so. As we say often on the Tailgate show, not so fast.
Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. For what it's worth, obviously, Portland has been through an entire roster reconstruction. They have the same front office and the same head coach, right? They won 33 games last year, and they shut a lot of people down in the back end of the season, right? Again, that's only for what it's worth because the roster is totally different than it was last year.
Absolutely. I like the stability at the top, though. I
Yeah.
really like that when you're rebuilding and you've got that stability. It helps.
Yeah. I agree with all the points you said. I especially like the point you made about them kind of resetting this roster when moving on from superstar and not completely taking, right? They traded for actual pieces.
Yep.
They didn't trade for future capital, which is very important, right? Like it's kind of the opposite of the Oklahoma City model. Now they did get draft capital back, but they definitely don't have as much as Oklahoma City.
Right.
Where when they traded away all of their superstars, they got SGA, but he was almost a toss in, right? At that point in the time,
Yep.
It's very important to them, but they couldn't have gotten that deal done without all of the draft capital that they got back from the Clippers and so many other teams since then, right? Ryan, how do you feel?
Sam Presti's never met a future second-round pick he didn't love.
Loves them all, dude. Loves them all. He's at all the Ivy League schools just watching these kids running around. Ryan, 27.5 wins for Portland. What do you think?
This one's tough for me. I don't think it like jumps out at me, which is fine. Like they're, it's Vegas. Probably none of these should jump out at me. They're pretty good at it. I think the team, like the 7-man rotation's really good. I wonder if that's going to be the rotation at the end of the year. I would expect them to be sellers more than the Wizards will be sellers, because I don't think Brogdon probably stays on that team. I think Williams potentially is gone. Those will be big pieces that people will want, and Portland will still be okay with Aiden and Scoot and Sharp and those guys. I think if I was going to bet it, I would take the over, though. I do agree that I think it's a little low. The West is just so tough. It's like, who are they beating? Are they better than the Spurs? Maybe. Like the Spurs are a bigger unknown, I think, like way less known quantity. But the Spurs could. I mean, I think that line's fine. Are they better than the Rockets? There's an argument that they're better than the Rockets. But the Rockets are a bigger unknown. So Portland's probably like the most known quantity of like the bottom of the West, because like most of their guys are vets, right, or have been around a couple of years, except for Sharp and Scoot. And Sharp is a little bit of a known quantity. So really, it's probably what does Scoot do, right? And Gary and I are huge fans of Scoot. We both. I mean, Gary took him number 1 overall in the draft, in our mock draft, and we all said he was a number 2 prospect. We liked him over, he went number 3. It was not like he like collapsed down the boards there, but we all think he was the second best prospect in a draft that was all world according to a lot of people. So yeah, if he is that guy and stays healthy right away, sure, I think it's a clear over. I think it's a marginal over if he's not immediately a star, which I think is the more likely scenario. So I would probably stay away from it. But yeah, it's probably a marginal over. It's just the West is so tough. And I'll talk about that with my next one. But
yeah, it is a very tough conference. There's a lot of large win totals in the Western Conference, right? Like a lot of teams that are expected to be hovering around that 500 mark and competing for those top 8 spots in the play-in, whatever it comes out to be. All the playoff spots that are available, because everyone makes playoffs now. I do agree that the over is probably the play here. 27.5 feels extremely low for a team that was projected to have, or was analyzed to have just drafted a generational talent in Scoot, right? If he's going to be the guy that we all kind of think that he's going to be, at some point in his career, he's going to be good for, just write it down, 45 wins, and then whatever is around him boosts them to 50, 55, 60, right? So if you think that he projects out to be that player, you kind of have to assume that coming into the league, you just write him down for 30 wins, right? Like that's kind of the assumption when you draft a superstar guy to run your franchise, that he's good for a certain amount of wins. And I have to assume that the pieces around him, if Brogdon starts the year with them, Jeremy Grant's been in the league for a while, Dominating Ayton is still there, or is there now, right? He's played in the finals. Like he's a good NBA player. Like all of these guys are going to be there to boost their superstar franchise player into that next stratosphere. And I have to assume they go over, barring any injury. So that was Portland. I think we all kind of like the over there. That being said, we're going to go back to Ryan to get his next lock or whatever he feels most strongly about.
Yep. I'm here to give you great gambling advice, and my next great gambling advice will be take the under on the Phoenix Suns. That I think everyone. I did not say that in the chat what I was going to do, but I think it was probably a little obvious. I think that line is super risky. The risk profile of that team is super high. And I think there's a potential that no one in the West wins more than 50 games. And everyone is just really in the middle, and like 1 through 8 is like a 4-game difference. I can see that happening. And if that happens, I don't think the Suns get to 53. I think the Nuggets are the best team. I think there's an argument that the Suns are the best team, but how much better are they than the Lakers, Warriors, Clippers, Grizzlies, and then ascendant teams like the Thunder, teams who did it last year like the Kings, and then like the wild cards, Pelicans, Mavericks. Like they're better than all those teams, but not 8 games better than the Mavericks, like 7 games. But like I think that's crazy. I don't see 52.5. I think the West is way too strong, like I said before. And Cody Zeller is a full practice participant. Hell yeah.
Vice principal, baby.
We do love Cody Zeller here.
Yes, we do.
And yeah, again, I think if an injury happens like that, like even just for 20 games, like that's massive for them, and it hurts them so much. And I like a lot of the fringe guys we've talked about on here. I think the team's actually relatively well constructed for having a big 3. But I just think the West is really good. I mean, that's fundamentally it. This is not an indictment on the Suns. It's just like there's like 10 teams that want to win the championship in the West.
Yep.
And it's that makes it tough.
Yes, I 100% agree. I'm going to spoil my pick here and just let you all know that I'm taking the under. I have not played it. I'm kind of waiting to see if the line moves at all as the season gets a little bit closer. I don't really expect it to, but I'm just going to wait and see. I will be playing the under, though. I can tell you that. Gary, what do you think for Phoenix?
I'm actually just barely over on the Suns. I tried to make this pick knowing full well that I probably will be wrong because, like, Durant's going to miss 20 games and Beal's probably going to miss 25. But I tried to say, like, they're going to manage it and we're going to see this big 3 play together a lot. And I think if this big 3 does play together a lot, this is a 54-win team, probably, maybe 55. Just barely over on their number. But I don't disagree with any of the points you guys made, right? The West is really tough. I think it's Denver and kind of everybody else right now. But I fully believe that gap could close as the season progresses. Teams make moves here and there. Plus, how healthy is LeBron coming into this season? And when you're talking about the Lakers, and are they going to get Anthony Davis for 55, 60 games this year? How good is Austin Reeves going to be, now that he's kind of a focal point on that team, at least tangentially a focal point on that team? And what are the Warriors, right? Do we believe the dynasty's over? I don't think so, right? So they could be another 45, 48 win team, and they're going to push toward the top of the West potentially. So I am on the over on this, but this is one that I'm not betting this. I wouldn't bet this line because that number feels really tough to me. It feels super sweaty. And I could easily see this going under as well for all the reasons you guys stated. The West is tough. Health is always a consideration with Durant and with Beal. And if they do miss significant time, when you build a team that's constructed around a big 3, you need those big 3 to play. So I'm slightly over, fully understanding that I could miss this one.
Yeah, it's a lot of wins, man. 53 is a lot of wins. For what it is worth, once again, this is a team that underwent an almost complete full roster overhaul, and they have a new coach. They won 45 games last year, finished 4th in the West. If you were going to tell me that they went from 45 to 53, an 8-game jump, that's a lot for a team that was already good. Like,
It is.
jumping from a really good team to that elite team. I don't know. I think the under is definitely in play here. And let me give you a litany of reasons, right? Valanciunas, Zion, Jaren Jackson Jr., Chet Holmgren, Anthony Davis, DeAndre Ayton, Jokic, Karl Anthony Towns, Gobert, Walker Kessler. These are just some of the bigs they're going to have to face in that Western Conference, right? And as we've stated, Nurkic is not very good. He very rarely plays full seasons, if ever, right? And they don't have another player like Bol. Is he going to be their matchup big? I mean, he's going to have to be, right?
Gonna have to be.
Yeah. Okay. Gary, do you have another one for us to discuss here on your list, sir?
Yeah, I've got one more. I'm pretty bullish, and I don't think it's any secret this offseason. I've been pretty bullish on the Celtics. I was a little bit out when they moved Marcus Smart. I think he's an integral piece, maybe not so much for his on-court ability to score the basket or even be kind of a level-headed guy on the court. He's a bit of a hothead, but I think he brings something to that team, or brought something to that team, and I was worried that they were losing that. But I like the move when they went and got Bol. When they went and got Drew Holiday, I really like that move. We talked last week or the week before about like how what's that roster going to look like in terms of the starting 5. I think they're going to figure it out. I think they're fine. Watching the preseason, they've had some pretty good rotation. We could see, potentially 3 guards on the floor at any given time, because I think that, with the addition of Drew Holiday, who can guard 1 through 3 pretty well, and Jaylen Brown, who can guard 2 and 3 pretty well, and some of the smaller 4s in the league, I think they can go small often, and during the regular season especially, like, it doesn't hurt you as much. I would worry, not to get too far ahead of myself, but I would worry about maybe them as a 1 seed potentially being at risk early in the playoffs if they come up against a team that can really punish them inside and on the interior. But I think over the course of an NBA regular season, this roster is really good. They've got a bunch of stars, they've got a bunch of talent. And I think I'm going over on them. I've got them right at about 60 wins, 61 wins. I think this is probably a 60-win team. I've got 2 that I believe are 60-win teams, and they're one of them.
Nice. Yeah, this is another one. There was an odd amount of turnover on rosters amongst high-win teams last year. Maybe more so than I can ever remember in the past, really. Like teams that have won a lot of games and just kind of saying, fuck it, we're going to change everything we got.
Like an arms race, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And it's different from previous arms races where it was like, we got to have a big 3. Yeah. This is like, we just won everyone.
Yep.
so Ryan,
all the players.
Yeah, all the players, right? Ryan, Celtics coming in at 54.5. What do you think, man?
That's a tough line. Like all of them. Like I said, I like Milwaukee slightly better than them, but I don't even know if I would take Milwaukee at that. That's tough. The top of the East is really strong. I expect Cleveland to be better. Philly's kind of an unknown, but the middle of the East, like I said, is not just a pushover like it has been over the last couple of years. I think the bottom of the East is still pretty weak, but there's not as many tanking teams and not as many free wins as there used to be. I would probably still saying all that take the over, but I think it's tough. I think Milwaukee and them will finish very close to each other, like 55, somewhere between like 52 to 55, 56 for both teams. Is what I would expect. So I guess saying that I would take the under based off the odds, but I think they probably finish on the higher side. But I don't love the line as a betting opportunity. So.
Yeah, that's a line I probably would not bet, but on the show we like to give out over unders anyways. I'm gonna make my case for the over, and I hope that Gary can agree with some of these points I'm about to lay out. Right. So last year, Joe Mazzulla was hired less than 2 weeks before the season started. He was not given a full off season to really work with the team. He wasn't given enough time to hire a coaching staff that fits for him. Throughout the year, we saw that there were issues with him and Marcus Smart, and especially towards the end of the year, him and Grant Williams, who would just get DNPs. Those two players are gone; they're not on the roster anymore. Joe Maz has a full off season to work with the team. This new roster they've constructed. He brought in a guy that he's very near and dear to my heart. I don't know if you guys are going to know who he is. Emil Jefferson is on the coaching staff there. Former Duke basketball player, for those of y'all who do not know. But he and Jason Tatum are very tight. Always, dude, always. Shout out Duke Hoops, baby.
All
Duke
roads
Hoops.
lead to Durham.
Yep. But Emil Jefferson and Jason Tatum are very close. It's important for the coaching staff and the star player to have a close relationship, right? I think Boston is going to be very, very good. And I said to both of y'all individually and together, I want to zag on the Celtics team. I want to say that they're not going to be good. But I can't logically make that case. I have tried to make it to myself. I don't see it. I like the over. I think they win probably close to 60 games.
Yeah. I love the Joe Mazzulla point. It is something we talked about during the finals last year and also a little bit in the preseason, that having that full offseason is a big, big, big deal for a coaching staff. And, you know, with the turmoil that surrounded the coaching changeover last year as well, it was, you know, Ime was a very well-liked guy in that locker room. Like, they loved him in Boston, and to lose that guy and end up with a guy, I think it was 2 or almost just over 2 weeks before the season started, like, that's a big deal. So that's a really good point by you. I'll feather that one in the cap of the over as well. I like it. I think given an off season, Joe Mazzulla is going to be able to. How many like late clock management situations did they not do well in last year, especially in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And those are the things you coach in the off season, right? You're not going to make a star into a superstar with off season workouts, but you're gonna have those situational things. It's going to be second nature. The players and the coaching staff are on the same page. All of those things are going to come together for you over the course of an offseason. So, yeah, I 100% I'm in that corner that I think Joe Mazzulla is going to have a much better feel for this roster and how the game's going to flow with this team.
Yeah. All right. Ryan, I know that coming into this you had told us that you only had 2. Have you had time to think of another? And if not, I can give you guys some of the teams that I wrote down.
I'd like to hear that too.
Okay.
After Ryan gives us a third.
Well, first I want to say all the off-season workouts I've been doing, it is frustrating to hear Gary say I cannot become a superstar.
You're the exception.
Because I've been putting in that work, you know what I mean?
You're going to be a superstar podcaster when the NBA regular season kicks off.
My daughter did tell me today. She said I could become a professional basketball player today.
Nice.
There you go. See,
I think she just is like, you like basketball. You're just trying to be nice, and I'm like, well, like, you know, nothing about my physicality. I didn't mention anything. I was like, I'm probably too old, right? Like, I'm 32. Like, it's probably past the peak where they would probably bring me in as a player. And she's like, I've seen a guy who was 35 play in the NBA. You'll be fine. And I'm like, yeah, totally.
It's good logic. You can't beat that.
Yep.
But she was like, 35, you're done, because that's the oldest I've ever seen.
That's it.
I have no idea who the player was she was thinking of that was 35.
Maybe it was Durant with the number 35 on it.
I have no idea. I have no idea. She knows like 2 basketball players.
To that note, before you give us a team, do y'all know who the oldest player in the NBA is currently?
Haslam retired, so.
Oldest player in the NBA currently, Danny Green.
Nope.
Chris Paul. No, he's is it?
Jesus. Is it one of the Lopez twins?
It's not.
Damn.
No, they're like 35, 36.
Yeah.
The answer will shock you. It's a player we have not yet mentioned tonight.
What team does he play for?
I'll just tell you guys, it's LeBron James.
Oh yeah.
He is older than the Lopez twins, isn't he?
He's
Jesus
currently
Christ,
the
he's
oldest
old
player
shit.
in the NBA. Going
38?
into year 21.
I was
Going into
gonna-
his 39. Yeah, age
I was
39.
gonna say that, but I thought that was too obvious, and I was like, someone must be older.
Nope.
We almost never see like superstars be the oldest guy in the NBA either. So there's always like a Julio Franco holding on for.
Yep.
Robert Parrish did it. Superstar.
Yeah, that's fair. He did play for fucking ever.
Played most games of all time.
Yeah,
I mean, LeBron's going to go out a superstar. Like he just will.
Yeah.
I hope so. I don't want to. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I want to see him. I don't want to see him go out on a shield. Too many guys do that, like from basketball in general, but also like guys like Brett Favre going out and they fucking can't walk and shit like I don't want to see that stuff. Evander
I
Holyfield,
agree.
talk about a guy going out on his fucking shield. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, I don't want to see that with LeBron because he's just been like the antithesis to Father Time is undefeated. Let's keep it that way, man. Retire while you're still fucking teeth above the rim, and let's keep it that way, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, Ryan, have you thought of a third? And if not, that's totally fine.
Well, I had a couple of like fringe ones.
Mhm.
I thought the Raptors one was interesting at 36.5. My immediate thought was they have a lot of talent on that team, especially in the front court. The problem is I think they're sellers.
Yes, I fucking wrote that down. Nice.
Well, great minds. But yeah, I think there's a good chance they're sellers, and it's like we're just going to do Scotty Barnes and figure out the rest kind of thing. Because I think OG is going to leave in free agency, so they're going to want to trade him to get something. And Pascal's been on the trade block for like
7 years.
Yeah, been a long time. So that team could very easily be pretty bad pretty quickly. And if they start out poorly, I think like that the under is going to be very easy to hit. I think the Magic are a decent over. I kind of talk similar reason to the Pacers, though I don't think they're as well constructed. And I will mention my hometown team, and I say don't bet that line because that sounds about right. 31.5 for the Rockets. I won't say either one, but
I wrote down under for the Rockets, probably 31.
Yeah, they look really good in preseason. They look really good.
You're gonna lose by the hook if you bet the over.
They look really good defensively. I'm not sure how good they'll be offensively, but defense gonna win some games. So
yeah.
Okay. Let me give you all. I have a list. There's about 10 teams on the list, and we've talked about some of them. We won't talk about all of them. But so we discussed Indiana. I had them written down as an over.
Yep.
We discussed Phoenix. I had them written down as an under. A team that I feel pretty strongly about with this line is Memphis at 45.5. I'm going under for Memphis. They historically have been very good without Ja on the court, right? Not this past season, but the year prior, they went 20-5 without him, which is unprecedented, really, to lose a superstar and to go 15 games over 500. Tyus Jones is no longer there. Their backup point guard is going to be Marcus Smart. And it's going to be Marcus Smart time for the first 25 games. I can tell you that. We mentioned it in the postseason with Boston last year, and I've said it many times. There are too many games where the shot clock is running down in the fourth quarter and the ball just finds Marcus Smart.
Yep.
He's not that guy. He wasn't that guy in college. He's not that guy in the NBA.
It's probably because he's always open because the defense isn't covering him at the end of a shot clock.
Right? Right? Now, I will say getting Steven Adams back is really going to help. I think Brandon Clark comes back at some point this year from his ACL. They will still have talent on this roster, and I think they're very well coached. But I think they're going to struggle out of the gate without Ja on that team. Mm-hmm. Desmond Bane, I mean, maybe he takes a leap and he carries them, and I would love to see that. I'm a big Bane fan. But 45.5, you can't tell me they're going to win 46 games. That West is very, very tough.
Agreed.
Gary, you're under on them as well?
Yep. I got them around 42. I think they're going to struggle out the gates. They'll get a little bit of a juice bump when Ja comes back, and right around 500, 41, 42 wins.
Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I generally agree. I like Memphis though. I think they'll hold serve. Uh, but the West again is really tough. So it's not that I dislike the team. I actually think they're better than a lot of people think they are, even without Jaw.
It's a good roster.
Yeah, I think Jared Jackson Jr. is going to be a breakout guy this year offensively. So I would still take the under just because the competition's so tough. But I mean, I think you could take almost all the unders on the tops in the West, and then all the overs like near the bottom in the West, and like feel pretty good about it. So
Yeah.
I'd love if Triple J could stay healthy because I think he's a budding star. Maybe not a superstar, but he's a budding star. But he just can't stay healthy.
I mean, if he's an 18 point per game guy and defensive player of the year, that's a superstar. I mean,
I don't disagree if that's what he does for sure, and he's got that potential.
Can't rebound, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, he can foul though. We know that.
He'll block your shot from the parking lot.
Yep. So we all kind of like the under there, I believe, right? Isn't that what you said, Ryan?
Yep.
Yes, perfect. Love it when we're all in lockstep. It definitely means you should bet the over.
I bet the over now.
Do the opposite.
So I have another team on my list that we mentioned sort of in passing when we were talking about a different franchise. This is a team who last year won 44 games, and somehow their win total went up in projection. That would be none other than the Los Angeles Clippers, whose over-under sits at 45.5. Gary, am I missing something here? Did they get better? I know the rest rules changed, so maybe we see their stars more, but I'm on the under.
I'm on the under too. Not a ton under, but I'm on the under. Maybe around 500, as many as 43-ish wins. You're not missing anything. Like this is an okay roster with two superstars and two superstars who couldn't be less interested in the regular season. I know the rest rules have changed, but I don't think that changes like the engagement level of Kawhi and Paul George during the regular season. I don't think they made a lot of improvements on this roster. I'm with you. I'm under. I think they're an above 500 team. They're certainly a playoff team in my opinion, but I don't. 46. I don't think they get there. I just don't think they get there.
Yeah, Ryan, what do you think about the Clippers?
Sorry for walking away. I was listening.
Yeah, I know. I could hear.
Yeah,
The beauty of Bluetooth.
The Pelicans, love those guys.
Zion breakout.
Yeah.
The Clippers, yes. Here's what I'll say about the Clippers. This is the most unserious team I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my god.
The fact that they could get James Harden for superstar baseball he's one of the greats.
Shout out to basketball.
The fact you can get James Harden for 2 first and Terrence Mann, and you're like, Terrence Mann is too much to ask for. You're not a serious team.
Yeah.
You're just not. You don't want to win right now. You're like, we can't mortgage our future for James Harden. It's like, man, when James Harden's on, he's a perfect fit for that team. Two guys who can score, gets him the ball. He's got like a pick and roll guy there. Like he's a perfect fit there. And that's cheap.
Yeah.
And they're saying no.
I'll say this. This Clippers team is like, it's Kawhi and friends. Because I'm pretty certain that the only reason they wouldn't take that trade is because Terrence Mann and Kawhi are pretty close. Terrence Mann, Kawhi, and Paul George are all pretty close. They podcast together and shit. So
who cares?
Listen, as a front office, I agree 100%. I just think they called what did he call himself? The board man when he was in college. They called the board man, and he gave his weird laugh and told them, "No, you're not trading Terrence Mann." Yeah, I don't get that move either. Right, you're 100% right. The fact that you could have gotten Harden for 2 firsts that should be worth almost nothing, and Terrence Mann, and you said no, thank you. It tells me that you're kind of a fucking clown show in the front office.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in a West that's this tough. Like you need to do these. You need
Unserious is the perfect way to put it.
You need to create variance, positive and negative variance, but you need to create the variance in your possible outcomes. You're not going to win. in that West. Like you might not be a top 6 team right now. Like
Yeah.
and you might be a top 3 team with that trade. Like and you have a chance, right? You're not the best team, but like you're giving up the years of Kawhi and Paul George because of I don't even know what Terrence Mann. Like Terrence Mann is not developing into a star. I like Terrence Mann. I don't have like an issue with him. I just it's insane to me. That's the cheapest you can ever get a guy who is a top 30 guy in the NBA right now, ever.
Yeah.
Silly.
All right. So we all like the under with the Clippers, and I'll give you one more to round it out, an even 3 for the each of us. I like the under in Chicago. We talked about Chicago during our division previews. We said that they didn't make a splash play. They weren't a very, very good team, especially down the stretch last year. They finished 40-42 and did not get any better this offseason, right? Now, Patrick Williams coming back to play full season potentially can make them a better roster. But Lonzo's not coming back. Alex Caruso, another year older. Same with Levine. Same with DeRozan. Like, this team just doesn't do it for me. If they hit the over, it would not shock me. But I think that the smarter bet here is to play the under, right? They're playing in an East that is not super great, to include them, but that has teams that were very, very bad last year that are looking to take the next step forward towards getting into that play-in scenario, right? Brian, what do you think about Chicago at 37.5?
I mean, I guess logically, if I think Orlando and Indiana are probably better than their projection, their line, then I have to take Chicago down. Especially if I also said the Wizards are not that bad, and I did say Detroit might be worse. But like at this point, there's only so many teams that can beat that are below them, and I don't see them upsetting the top of the East too often. I do like the team, but we talked about this again, like you said. They're probably in the worst situation in the NBA with like roster control and picks and contracts. They're just in a bad spot. I think you have to blow it up. I think that's the only move. And the unfortunate part is everyone knows you need to do that. And so like, what do you get? You know, and and it's Chicago. Like, it's hard to blow it up in Chicago.
Yeah,
it's not an easy place to do it. There's been many franchises who have, and they left. But since the Bulls have been there, they've been a competitive team since the mid '80s, late '80s. So, yeah, I think they're in a tough spot. But I would take the under just because I have to logically do that.
Gary, how do you feel?
I'm in lockstep with you guys. I don't know that I have them bottoming out unless they do what Ryan mentioned, like blow it up and just kind of take whatever pennies on the dollar teams will give them. I've got them a couple of games under that number, 35-ish, right, mid-30s. I think they're probably not a 50-loss team as currently constituted, but the top of the East got better. I think that the middle of the East also got better. So for me, the way Ryan put it was perfect, right? If I've got those teams getting better, I kind of have to make the Bulls get worse. So give me the under, probably 35-ish wins.
Yeah.
If they do blow it up, it could get real bad though, because it's not a super deep roster behind the tradable pieces, right? They've got tradable pieces, but if they trade all those away, it becomes a real tough win for them on a given night.
Yeah, Vucevic says they'll be better. Yeah, maybe.
Is he including himself in that, or
he's their most consistent guy? Like Levine and DeRozan, who knows what's gonna happen with them? But Vucevic's gonna get you 17 and like 10 every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to mention one more team before we get out, because I think Bentley, that brought you to your kind of end of your list, right?
Yeah, I have some most interesting teams I want to ask y'all specifically about. Go for it, dude. Whatever.
Yeah, man. For me, in this does fall under most interesting. Like Orlando is kind of the big one for me that becomes like this, almost like the balancing of the scales. When I came to like my Eastern Conference teams and I was looking like, okay, I have up, I have down, I can't have too many wins because obviously the math doesn't work, yada yada. I tried to keep it fairly close. Orlando becomes that kind of balancing of the scales for me because I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. I think a year older. I think the way the roster is constructed, I think Paolo is going to take that next step this year. and start to bud into the star or superstar that they want him to be, that they drafted him to be, that I think he has the potential to be with his skill set, his size, his length. I've got Orlando, and I've got them beating their number pretty heavily, pretty healthily. 6 wins over their number is about where I've got them. 43 to 44, so 5 or 6 over their number is where I've got them. I've got them right in the middle of the pack, maybe even hosting a playoff series in the East. I really like this Orlando team.
I agree with you. I don't. So if they win 43 games, that's a 10-win increase from last year.
Over last year.
That's a lot in the NBA.
Vegas has got them 5 over last year, though.
Yeah, what scares me about them is like you could have a 3-game win increase and still miss this total, right?
Oh,
like that's still a loss, right?
Sure.
5. If you're telling me 5 wins, I really would love, like, I feel like their line is right where it should be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have them between like 36 and 38 wins. If they win 40, I'd be ecstatic because I love that team. The only issue is that, and this is a real grind set mentality here. Progression is not always linear, right? Like,
yep.
Like you don't always get better year after year after year. I fully agree that Paolo can blossom into a true blue superstar in this NBA, but is it going to happen in year 2? I don't know. I would love for that to be the case. This was one of the most difficult picks for me, and it's why I didn't have it like on my lock list. I think I would play the over.
I'll be honest about like what brought me to this as well. It's not so much like the middle of the East. I think they're going to feast in that division. I don't like Miami. I think they're going to be a fairly bad team. I think they're going to be below 500 potentially. Charlotte, I have them, I think, just barely touching their number. Yeah, and Washington, I actually have Washington under their number. I think Washington is a 60-loss team this year. So I think that those games, because they play in the Southeast and it's that bad, I do think they're going to feast within division. I've got them winning their division. And I do, like I said, I think I've got them borderline finishing either 4th or 5th, potentially hosting a first-round playoff series. I'm really bullish on the Magic in terms of beating their number, but I'm also really fucking bearish on the rest of the Southeast. It's a bad division.
Ryan, what do you think? Orlando.
I mentioned them a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I have them as an over. Thank you for using one of my favorite lines to describe them. But what I will say is they have so many options to develop that it's probably a good chance that they're better because their young guys are probably not getting worse based off their age. And they have so many guys that are young and with potential that some of them will likely develop. They have a lot of opportunity to be even just a slightly better team. I don't love the construction of the roster, as I've stated many times on this show. I think that I have some concerns with shooting, and I have some concerns with the loaded guard spots. Yeah, I think they probably start to figure that out this year. That would be my guess. And they look a lot better. Yeah, Goga Batadze. The more minutes he gets, the more I take the under.
Yeah, same. Honest. All right. So I got some rapid fire ones of teams that I thought were the most interesting, where their totals are set going into the year, and we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about them. I just want to hear you guys 1 or 2 sentence thoughts, kind of blurt it out as it comes to your mind, right? Team number 1 that I have for y'all, Dallas Mavericks at 43.5. Ryan, let me get you first. What do we think, Dallas?
Wouldn't touch it. Would probably go under.
Under, okay. Gary, how do we feel?
Same. I'm not touching it. I'm under by a game.
Okay. I think I want to play the over. Okay. For the sole fact that I made the point very quickly when we talked about Portland. You have a superstar. You set him down for 45 wins, right? I think Luka's that superstar. I think Luka gets you to 45, and you kind of figure out the rest from there.
Okay.
So I would play the over. Next most interesting team on my list. Gary, will get to you first. New Orleans Pelicans. They are at 44.5.
I went under, but I also put in parentheses, Zion playing a lot will kill me on this. I'm assuming he's going to continue the trend. I have a sinking feeling for Zion that his career is going to be marred by injury, the way that like Greg Oden and some of the other guys that we've seen never get to where we know they can be, right? When they play, they're fucking phenomenal. Zion might be the best player in the league when healthy, right?
Yeah.
I'm going under because of that sinking feeling, but like I said, I put in parentheses, Zion playing a lot is going to beat that. They're over. If you told me crystal ball Zion plays 55 games in the regular season, I'm over, because I think you mentioned that superstar that just slots you in for 45. I love this roster too, but without Zion, I don't think they're a 45-win team.
Fair. That's fair. Ryan?
I'm going to stick with my previous projections on our last show. I remember specifically taking the over on the Pelicans, saying Zion has to eventually play to some extent. I think it's an inevitability. Like, I think he's probably at some point a little embarrassed of himself that he hasn't been able to. I think anybody would be to some extent, and like competitive people would be. I say that they've looked god awful in preseason. They've looked really bad.
Yeah.
They have not gelled. They don't look good together. I think it's a lot of rust with Zion. Zion's not playing a ton, but like he's getting his legs back under him. Brandon Ingram looks disinterested half the time. This very easily could be just a poorly constructed team that was good on paper. And you know, the West is tough, but I could like very easily see them also being the 4 or 5 seed, like very easily, and being a tough 4 or 5 seed. So I'll take the over, but again, I don't think like the West is so tough. I think all these teams are going to be like 1 through 8 of the guys the guys who make the playoffs. It might be a 4-game difference between all of them, 5-game difference, like max, which is crazy.
Yeah, I really, really, really want it would be fun for us. I really, really, really want the over to happen for New Orleans, because that means Zion is playing a lot. I think the smart option here is to play the under.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zion's probably drowning his embarrassment at the bottom of a Chick-fil-A sauce bottle or something. I can't count on him. That's my stance at this point.
Yep.
I hope he proves me wrong, because that's a fucking supernova potential.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it at this point.
All right, a couple of quick ones. Washington, Gary, we know he's on the under. Ryan, we already know, is on the over, because he does not think they're that bad. I also would take the over. I also think they're not as terrible as people seem to think they are. 23.5 is almost a disrespectful number to an NBA team with like some actual NBA players. The thing that would kill it would be if they're sellers at the trade deadline, but they don't have that many pieces that are valuable to trade. Jordan Poole, not a trade asset. That contract is ridiculous.
That line is egregious.
Is egregious, baby. All right. Ryan, we'll go to you on this one. San Antonio, 28.5.
Wouldn't touch it again.
Obviously, but that's not what I asked you.
I'm caveating that. So when someone watches this and is like, I bet specifically, I listened to this 5-second clip and I bet off of it, I can go back and say, you should listen to the other 5 seconds. I would probably take the over. I think they're pretty good. They're very young, but I like like 8 of their guys, potentially more. I think Collins looks really good too, which I think is going to be big for them to be competitive.
Okay, Gary, what do you think? 28.5.
Sweaty number, but I'm under a game or maybe 2 under this number. I think they're going to do everything and anything to ensure that they know exactly what they've got in Vic. And I think that as rookie superstars on tanking rosters go, we don't often see in year 1 the team make that step into the next level. I think we see it in years 2, 3, and 4 as you build up with a roster, LeBron James being the exception. Maybe Vic is that, but the West is so tough. So for that, I'm around 25, 26 with this team. I think they're a game, maybe 2 under this number.
Yeah, I'm on the under as well. I think Pop, if anyone in the league knows how to manage young superstars, I think it's Pop, right? He's going to play this the right way. He's not going to overwork his boys.
Yep.
He's going to play the long game with the superstar that he has there growing in San Antonio. I would take the under. All right, the last one. This is all of the lines are out. This is the only one that I've already wagered on, and it's because it has moved so much. I have a ticket for the under on the Philadelphia 76ers at 48.5. I believe it's moved down to 47.5, right? Yeah, it opened at 49.5.
Yeah.
And then moved. I saw 46.5 at one point in time, but it's kind of evened out. Our list here has them at, if I can find them, do I have them written down? I do have them written down. Where's Philly? I don't have them written down.
They're 47.5 right now.
47.5.
Yep.
Oh yeah, near the top. 47.5. Sorry. Gary, what do you think? Over or under Philly?
I'm under. There's a lot of turmoil. I wrote down a number that's close to it. I think it's just under at 45 or 46. That's me assuming that James Harden gets into the regular season, gets engaged, and this team plays with their full roster. I could see this getting real toxic and falling apart pretty quickly, and you could beat that number pretty safely, and this team's like an 8 or 9 seed going into the play-in. But right now, I'm right around the number, but just below.
Right. Ryan, what do you think? Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is tough. Man, Vegas is so good at this. They should think about doing this professionally. Has anyone called them about that? What did they finish last year? I'm just looking that up real fast. Cause,
they finished.
They were
54-28 last year.
I see that they're 1-2 in preseason.
They are.
I think if it moves down to 46.5, 46.5, I'd probably take the over. At 47.5, I might still take the over. I still like that team a lot. Joel Embiid, when healthy, is arguably the second or third best player in the world.
Bamba.
We love us some Mo Bamba.
I feel like I know who's watching.
Declare yourself.
Yeah, I like this team. I don't think I'm as big on like Maxey making like a superstar leap, but I do think he has like fringe all-star potential. I don't know if I see it past that because I don't think he has the playmaking chops to get into superstar world, which I think you need to as a guard unless you're an all-world scorer. Which not many guys are, but Embiid's going to get you there. I like the depth on the team, and it's possible they get something back for James Harden that's like makes them, still competitive. So I think if it drops anymore, I think you have to legitimately consider taking the over.
Yeah,
and I would consider it now. So probably not another one I probably wouldn't mess with just because there's so much unknown in it. If Harden sits all year, it's probably an under, but I think in a trade they get something back to get them a game. And Mo Bamba's over there, so and Kelly Oubre Jr. I think is over there, like best looking guy in the game.
Yeah,
got a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I probably haven't pegged it as like a 46-win team. That just makes the most sense to me. But that's a winning ticket for the kid. All right, so because of our time constraint here, we are going to do trivia, right? But as is tradition on Thursday night, I would like to get y'all's prediction for the NFL game this evening. The line has moved since this podcast started. Yeah. When we got on, it was plus 1.5 to Jacksonville on the road in New Orleans. Ryan, you are on a hot streak on Thursday nights. Yeah. I assume, Gary, you are too because you've been betting with Ryan and I've been losing a lot. So I'm just going to assume that you're also on a hot streak.
Appreciate it, Ryan.
Ryan, what do you think, man?
What was the line? New Orleans 2.5.
New Orleans plus 2.5 excuse me,
minus 2.5.
Yeah,
Jacksonville getting 2.5 though.
Yes, my apologies. Thank you.
I take Jacksonville with the spread.
Yep. Gary, same thing.
Money line Jacksonville.
Yeah, that would be my pick as well. You get plus money with that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, that concludes our NFL portion of this NBA show. We appreciate you bearing with us through that torturous debacle.
Tradition, man.
It is tradition. We love it. All right, we're gonna move off of our over under pod. We really hope that you guys enjoyed that and make some money. Take our picks with caution. We are not professionals, although we do claim to be. That being said, Ryan, I'm gonna hand this over to you, brother. Take us on home.
All right, I made a really easy one for you guys. Bentley's been dominating, Gary and trivia. It looks like someone trying to guard Wilt Chamberlain in 1962 outside of Bill Russell. So I'm gonna help Gary out a little
It's
bit.
like me trying to cover Bentley if he was 6'2".
Yeah, I mean,
Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
An unstoppable force.
No shit. No
I'd be one of the best 450 basketball players on the planet.
Yeah.
I had the ball to prove it.
Yeah.
So I decided to make an easy one. How we're going to do it is I have according to a website I looked at, the greatest finals of all time, the 2013 NBA Finals between the Heat and the Spurs.
Ooh, okay.
And all you got to do is name a player. And I'm just going to alternate between the two. They had to play in the finals, so it doesn't matter if they were on the roster, didn't play. They did not get any minutes.
So there's no weighted scoring system on this?
There's no weighted, but Gary, you get to go first as a privilege for losing.
For getting my ass handed to me.
So
I get to take LeBron James.
you can see here, there's all the Heat over here, and there's one extra Spur at the bottom. They have one more player than the Heat do. All right, you're going to take LeBron James.
Yes,
All right.
I got to get on the board somehow.
All right. I'll go Dwayne Wade.
I
Wade.
I almost bought some Dwayne Wade shoes today. I did tell you that. Some sick cherry blossom shoes he just put out like a couple weeks ago.
Is he still with the Chinese brand?
Yeah, that's why I didn't buy it. Nothing against them.
I'll take the big fundamental Tim Duncan.
Okay. I mean, obviously we're getting the easy answers out of the way here. It's the reverse. It's the reverse of my normal quizzing.
I'll go Chris Bosh.
He was pretty good, I heard.
Not bad.
I will go Mr. Big Shot Ray Allen.
Who hit a big shot
Yep.
in this playoff or in this finals.
Yeah.
Tiago Splitter.
Ooh.
There's
Going
an
off
H.
the board early.
There's an H in his first name.
No, there's not.
Thiago Splitter.
It's just Tiago.
Is it?
I will take Manu Ginobili.
Oh, you're right. I thought there was an H. Am I an idiot?
Yes.
I am an idiot. That's the actual true answer.
We have confirmed.
Houston Rockets assistant coach Tiago Splitter. You thought I would spell it wrong?
See?
Give me Boris Diaw.
Ooh. Okay.
Who was the LeBron defender?
I'm gonna go with the OG Udonis Haslem.
I thought you were going to say OG Anunoby. I was like, what? Yep.
Give me Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, Brazilian. You're right.
Yes, he is Brazilian. Do you think he knows Brandon?
He probably met Brandon in his time gallivanting through those communist countries.
Give me the Frenchman, Tony Parker.
All right. We got a lot of the big names out of the way here.
Yeah.
Give me Luigi's brother, Mario Chalmers.
Mario Chalmers.
I like that one. I actually was hoping to hold that one for the end.
Yeah.
I will say these are in order by minutes played as well for each team. So Tim Duncan played the most minutes.
Order by minutes, huh?
LeBron played the most minutes for the Heat.
Nice.
So that might help you a little bit.
Give me Birdman, Chris Anderson.
Yep. 100% so far. I'm impressed.
This is where I start to lose it a
Now it
little
starts to
bit,
get tight.
just a teensy bit. Oh man, who was that backup point guard in? Did what is his name? Oh my god, did George Hill play on the Spurs in that time?
We'll find out.
I don't think he did.
Oh,
No,
all right.
tough.
Back to Gary. Gary could take a 1-point lead here. Actually, a 2-point lead.
Could, huh? We mentioned him actually earlier in the show. Danny Green.
Nice.
May have been my fault for saying his name earlier, but
It's okay. Sorry. Oh brother. Oh boy. I don't want to take too much time here.
yeah, you are down 2 points, so I wouldn't do that.
Did Gary Neal play for the Spurs at this point in time? I don't think so, but
I think
Gary Neal.
oh,
is
let's
on
go,
the
baby.
board.
Wow.
Let's go, baby.
Deep.
I thought you were thinking that when you said George Hill. I was like,
Well, I
you might
was.
have Gary Neal.
I actually was, but like it just
I would not have said that one if I had to do this myself.
Yeah.
I would not have said Gary Neal. I wouldn't have thought of Gary Neal. So.
Gary Neal is a basketball player I think about often for absolutely no reason. None whatsoever.
I have that feeling about other people.
Give me not St. Vincent but St. Mary's alum, Patty Mills.
Patty Mills on the board. Didn't play a lot, but was on the board.
No. Oh, give me Norris Cole.
Oh, Jesus, you're fucking dead.
Norris Cole on the board.
Well done. Well done.
This is when the comeback is tough, so he's got to get these.
You know what's wild is I was 3,500 miles away watching this NBA Finals.
Really?
Yeah, I was overseas.
No shit.
Yeah.
I might have been too.
I think
I was actually. I was also, yeah.
Oh shit. Nice.
I
Give
didn't
me
watch it live.
nice. Give me big three dominator Rashard Lewis, who I believe played on this team.
Yes, he did.
What a cut, dude.
Next to last in minutes, but he's on there.
Was he that low in minutes? I thought he got more.
Well, it was the finals. It's like a six-man rotation.
During the regular season, he might have got a little run.
Yeah. All right. Bentley down 2.
Oh, brother. Can I pass?
I don't know how that benefits you in any way.
Oh, I just thought him Bentley should know.
You can pass, but I don't think it benefits you.
Yeah. 2013 Miami.
You got 6 and 7 for the Heat.
I know.
Which maybe is the biggest miss so far.
Yeah. I'm ashamed of myself. I can get Gary Neal and Norris Cole. Think of the first man off the. Well, Ray Allen was the first man off the bench.
Yeah. Norris Cole could play a little bit though.
Yeah.
Early in his career.
Chris Anderson. Back up big. Boy, oh boy.
You want a clue? I'll give you a clue. I'll help you out since you're buying.
Sure, go for it.
There's a Hall of Famer on this list.
Oh, a Hall of Famer?
Yep.
On which list?
I'm not on this 2-team list.
Hall of Famer on this 2-team list that played in the finals.
Oh, wait a minute.
It's also a help for Gary if you don't get it right. So.
Yeah.
I think I know who Ryan's talking about.
Man. man.
Specifically because it's Ryan.
Yeah, right.
Yao Ming.
Close.
Oh my god. Running out of time here, and I know of a backup center, and I can't think of his name.
You're running out the clock for Gary, so I mean he's chilling.
I know. Give me Alonzo Mourning.
I don't think he was still around.
I don't think he was. He was in 06.
Yeah. So I believe Tracy McGrady changed Texas teams and played. Well, he might. I don't think he got any run in the finals, but he was on this roster, I believe. Tracy McGrady.
Is that your guess, Tracy McGrady?
Yeah.
Okay. Correct. He played like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Probably in some blowout and like the losses.
I remember that because that was as close as he ever got to a title.
Yep.
And he was gonna kind of steal a ring at the end of his career.
Yep. That's the Hall of Famer on the list.
When you said that, it made me think of that too, because he's your boy.
I thought he would get it because he loves
boy.
Tracy McGrady.
Yeah, I completely forgot, dude. I just completely forgot.
I just remembered my buddy Andy's a huge McGrady fan too, and I remember that he was close to basically snagging a ring at the end of his career. The only thing that wasn't on his resume.
I have no more answers.
I can't believe you didn't get Shane Battier.
Oh, fuck me, yeah. Joel Anthony was the guy I was trying to think of.
Oh, James Jones.
Yeah, James Jones, yeah.
Matt Bonner?
Oh, no, Matt Bonner.
How did we miss Matt Bonner?
The Red Rocket, dude.
Mike Miller. Oh,
yeah,
that's right. He was one. He followed LeBron to Miami.
Yep.
Yeah. DeJuan Blair was like a good rebounder at that
Blair
point.
was fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Nando DeColo. Listen, if we would have come up with that.
If you would have, that. So there were two I was like, I definitely would never get in DeColo and Gary Neal. Funnily enough, Gary Neal played a lot, but I was like, I would have never got those two.
That was a fucking serious pull, Bentley. Gary Neal and Norris Cole.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But no Mike Miller or Shane Battier.
Right.
Shane, I even have my Duke shirt on.
Right.
Shane Battier of all people. I should freaking get that one.
That's the one I was talking about a minute ago. I remembered he played on that team, and I was like, oh, I can't believe Bentley's not getting that one.
Good game, guys. Good game.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was very good.
I thought y'all would enjoy that. Great finals. Apparently #1 ranked finals, according to random website I read.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to what it came down to, right? Like,
yeah,
hard to fault an NBA Finals. It comes down to a rebound kick out to Ray Allen to Jesus Shuttlesworth.
I think 16 was right after it, and then it was a lot of 60s finals actually, like a lot of Lakers Celtics finals in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
They came down real close.
Yeah.
I didn't do those to help y'all out.
I appreciate
that. Thank you.
I maybe 2 or 3 names I'm gonna get.
Maybe.
Then we're kind of exhausted.
Jerry West and his twin Jerry East.
Yeah.
playing for the Seattle Supersonics.
Yeah.
Classic East Coast team.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you once again for putting on a fantastic clinic of showing how dumb I am at basketball.
You've won every time except for this time. So,
well, yeah, but this time is the last one that counts, right? So, that being said, this has been our final off-season edition of Backyard Buckets presented by Backyard Sports. We appreciate all the interaction tonight. Thank you so much for showing up and showing out, y'all. We really do appreciate it. We have a wonderful time here talking ball. But for all of us here, we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel with real NBA games to speak on. Y'all have a wonderful evening. We